Hi, my name is Kimberly Ann Egberts. I'm a spiritual healer medium, and I've been studying with the Ledger Institute since 1998. And I had the pleasure of meeting Krissy Rasmussen last year at a beautiful bioaquatics cranial sacral class down in the Bahamas, which was ocean and dolphins. And we've been trading together for about a year, like once a month. We've been trading and doing remote healing sessions. And just last week, I kind of blurted out that I was finishing a book on cancer. It's going to be titled Cancer Miracles and the End of Death. And then, Krissy, I'm going to let you take over now and introduce yourself. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you got
So I
excited.
my yeah, my name is Krissy Rasmussen. I too am a cranial sacral therapist and have been training with the International Ledger Institute since 2006. Yeah, my journey with cranial sacral therapy um, as a therapist and a receiver has been just life. It's been transformative for me. Um, Yeah, so our conversation that recently took place around your book was rather like kind of divine timing for me too, as I'm approaching a 10-year anniversary from a pretty significant diagnosis in 2014 with triple positive stage 4 breast cancer that I decided to take a holistic approach to in healing. Knowing what I know from my background as a therapist was really helpful, but yet terrifying at the same time. So yeah, I will, I'm willing to, share in any of those details. There's been a lot of twists and turns, a lot of things that worked, a lot of things that didn't work. But overall, I'll let you kind of guide me and what you'd
Okay.
like me to share as far as
Well,
this.
first, I want to say I'm based in Maine, but I do a lot of remote work. And you're based right now in Colorado, right?
Yes.
Grand Junction.
Yes.
Um, and what I think is really amazing is every time I go to these workshops, I always meet somebody really amazing that shares the love of this work. My journey with working with people with cancer started about 16 years ago. I started embracing, I'm also a medium, so there's this piece that my intuitive skills were starting to reawaken because we all have them and they were reawakening. And someone sent someone to me, his name is Steve, and he had stage 4 Merkel cell cancer, and he was given 2 to 6 months to live. And I didn't, I was kind of like a little terrified at the time because I'm like, okay, I know how to communicate with spirit. I love working with the cranial hands and just being holding a really sacred space with people. But what happened with Steve is that the first time he came in, the angels, the guides were like, he's going to be okay. He needs to know he's going to be okay. And I was like, I'm going to tell a person that has 2 to 6 months to live, he's going to be okay. And they were researching, him and his family were researching all these doctors. Nobody wanted to touch him. And the first thing I got was this liver cleanse because it was in his liver, the stage 4 Merkel cell. And I didn't know what the heck I was talking about. I was just really coming through. Spirit was giving me the recipe for this cleanse. And his wife ran with it and found this Center for Advanced Cancer Education. I think it's in Idaho or Iowa, I'm not sure. And they actually said everything I said except including mushroom blends. So that was kind of phenomenal. It was like confirmation that spirit is working with me and through me. That was big enough. But the second time he came in, they found a doctor in Brooklyn that was specializing with AIDS patients. But this guy also had a stage 4 Merkel cell that responded to his particular experimental treatment. So he was willing to go down that route. But we were working on the table, and I just had my hands over his liver, and I said, "What happened to you at 8 years old?" And he kind of looked at me, kind of surprised, and he said, "My brother died. My brother had hepatitis, and he had a blood transfusion. He had a heart problem when he was a child, and he was given blood transfusions. They didn't test the blood back then. And he said one day, one on a Sunday, we're sitting around the table, and he just um, he died while they were playing." And his parents the next day said, "You know, you're going to school." and they never really talked about grief and the loss. So here he was. Steve was about 55, 56. I'm not sure. I don't remember. And I was like, wow. So this energy was being held in the liver from the time he was 8 years old. And I don't think we cause our cancers. But what I was discovering, because after Steve, I got a whole bunch of people, is that the cancer and wherever it was located was holding something that maybe we weren't given an opportunity to process early on. So I'm happy to say Steve's still here after all those years, and he was given literally 2 to 6 months to live. He never had to go to this doctor in Brooklyn because I said, "Are you going to get a scan beforehand?" He goes, "Why? Do you think I need one?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just got this funny feeling," and they did, and it was completely gone. So I'm not saying that that happens with all the people I work with because it all depends. Like you didn't have to go down traditional modalities. I've had other people that were going down traditional modalities and they did not end up surviving. But in the book, I talk about some of the miracles that happened anyway and the healing that happens at a different level. So that's where I am with why I was called to write the book. Starts with Steve, and then there's many other people. And I did lose my best friend 6 years ago in January, and she had colon cancer. So she's written in there too because she was hiding a traumatic event from her childhood, and it seemed like the cancer went right to that spot. So that's you know, um, and I'll say one more thing because we were talking about this the other day. When Upledger, he's so brilliant. He was ahead of his time. He's an osteopathic doctor, but he was seeing outside of the box even back then for osteopathic world. He wanted to bring it to lay people with particular things. I'm a licensed speech pathologist by trade, and your background
My
is
background
Chris.
is in integrative body work.
Right. Okay. So they now want everyone to have licenses. But I think that he was finding that the body held on to these energy cysts. And it's so cool, right? The energy cyst holds on to this hidden trauma. And so if you can hold a really clean, beautiful space, sacred space for a person, and when they're ready, that part can lift and it can release and choose to change. I'm not going to say heal because we don't want to heal something. We want to go to something new, unknown that might be really
Right,
beautiful, right?
right,
So
right.
that's where I'm sitting with that. So I'm very excited. I was surprised that I was writing for a long time and I thought it was going to be more trauma informed book. But November actually of last year, I almost felt like Spirit said, no, your first book is going to be about cancer and the traumas, and then how you can unlock that energy that's held within those cells. So that's where I sit. I'm excited about it, as you can tell.
I am
And
too. I am too. I believe that there are a lot of people that that really don't know what is even the best for themselves. There's the standard of care when it comes to when it comes to significant health challenges as it is, but there's also this kind of this need for us to be able to tune into our own inner compass and figure
right,
that out, and where does it start. And I believe, like, it's in the sharing of these stories, the of people's journey and exploration, that the answers, like, no matter what the outcome is, the and that was what where I started, was like, I can't control the outcome of this, whatever it is. I just knew intuitively, for me, that the what was being presented to me at the time was not the best option. That being
right,
said, I didn't know what I was going to do either. Um, so, it started with that. It started with that opening. And again, my background as a cranial sacral therapist and practicing somatic aspects of mind, body, spirit healing,
yeah,
I knew, that how do I weave those things together? And that the first thing that I thought I knew I needed to do was find a good cranial sacral therapist to get on the table, and so I could regulate my nervous system and listen to what was being shown, shown or felt, at that time. We speak so much about emotional connections and the discord. I 100% believe that. That there is an emotional component to everything. What I've also learned over this 10 years is that we don't have to figure it out or have to go down rabbit holes to discover every little piece. Well, I got to trace it back to a specific event, but rather, just allowing and being in the space of where we are at the time, and letting it be organic. But
Yes.
I would not be here today had I not done it that way. And I see that now. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't, I tell people all the time, I still I have lots of people follow me on social media, and that have known me through this journey will private message me and say, oh, my sister just got diagnosed with this, or my dad is diagnosed, what would I do, or what should I do? And the first thing I tell them is like, regulate your nervous system.
Right.
Find a way to regulate your nervous system, because all of the wisdom that we have is already within us. It really is. It's just that the navigation to that is going to look different for everyone. I never tell people you need to do it exactly the way that I did,
Oh, no,
because it
no.
was unique for me. But what I will tell you is you absolutely have to get in touch with your inner compass in order to figure out what does feel right for you in that next little piece, and then the next and the next. And it takes a lot of commitment. And I went through a lot of different protocols and programs, even alternative and holistic methods. Some of them didn't work for me. Some of them made me worse, because my body constitution couldn't handle like raw food diet. When I lived in
Right.
cold, clammy Michigan, during that time, I wasn't assimilating, and it was
Right.
so it's like there's so many different things. But at the end of the day, that is my testimony to healing, for anything. But in this particular occasion, we're talking about a serious health condition like cancer. So,
It is. And, you know, I will say I almost threw in the towel because after Steve's spontaneous remission, I was getting a whole bunch of people. And one woman in particular, who is going to be in the book, she was the same age as me, and her son was the same age as my daughter. They went to school together, and I worked with her for 4 years. So, as part of that, and the end of life and death is like the transformation of how hopeful she was to the end, right? But even with her, her son was 2, and she was given 2 to 5 years, and he was 14, because she said to the oncologist, "That is not acceptable." And she literally sought out some alternative treatments as well as doing the traditional route, but she blended the 2. And I always tell people, this is your journey. We're here to support you as practitioners, but it's that self discovery, because I'm the same way. I don't tell anybody. When it came to Steve's diet, I was like, I don't know, this is what they're giving me. You can run with it or not. And I just love that they ran with it. And it was exactly, except the mushroom blend to the letter of what that place was talking about. And that's how I work. I do blend the intuition in it, but I always say we have free will. This is what I'm
mhm,
getting. And oftentimes I will ask some difficult questions because they're literally coming from my higher self connected to their higher self. And it's kind of
right.
like I get this message like they need to hear this. And then the soup starts getting mixed, right?
Yeah, sure, sure.
And but I agree that you have no one size fits all. We're
Hmm.
talking about this, and when I lost that other individual, I was just really depressed. I was like, okay, so you save him and you don't save her. And then I had other people I was working with simultaneously, and I was really confused at what this meant. But it really wasn't about me. It's not about me and my ego. And but that's what happens. We get too trapped in our ego selves. And even this particular woman, she kept saying, why am I not getting what Steve did? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, right? Where's my like quick hands on, here it goes. But that wasn't her journey. You know, we're so much more than the physical body too.
Mhm.
But when you said it's hard work, I think that's the key is how and even with that, even if you're completely committed, I don't know, some people they don't get the physical outcome that they're looking for. But I've seen a lot of people transform
And
even with
that
their that
that that
spirit.
is that I believe is like is the key and like a big takeaway when you shared the context of your writings and the different people that you have interviewed. And there were these, you know,
Right,
success stories and these miracles, but there's also the end of life. And, you know, it really humbled me, you know, and made me remember too that it was, like I said, you know, when I accepted the fact that I can't, you know, I can't control like what the
right,
outcome is. All I know is once I got on the path of the letting go and the surrendering and the listening to my internal wisdom, the people and the things were coming, and it wasn't all at once. And it's just like I said, it's been a process, but during that process, I have transformed. It, you know, my life has transformed. I've transformed and
yeah,
transcended as a person, you know, through my own traumas, which that goes back to, you know, even being in utero, you
yep.
know,
We
and
we
having an
shared that.
early, yes, you know, and having an early imprint under the age of 1 of near drowning, you know, there, you know, so yeah, when I go back, it's like, okay, my nervous system has just been wired for this since conception. So, okay,
Right,
naturally, you know, this is not, it's not a, oh, I'm going to discover this and it's going to be all gone. It's a spiral, but it
right.
doesn't have to be a rabbit hole either. But the transformation and what we take away from any of our experiences is just of that. It's you know, I'm evolving, I'm ascending, which, you know, like changed my life, but also the way that I see people and how I facilitate in, you know, in my work with people, particularly as a trauma informed therapist
Yes,
and working somatically with the mind and body and helping people to integrate. It's not about, you mentioned that, and I love that we both share that same integrity
right.
of Dr. John Upledger's. Like we're not the healer, you know, we're facilitators of these experiences with people, and letting go is not something that I use in my language because we don't even know what it is.
No, a lot of times
It's
we don't.
so, yeah, there's so many different layers. When we uncover something, we can get to like the it, you know,
Yes.
much easier if we just hold the neutral space for ourselves and for others.
Yeah, it's really true. I had her somebody just this week and I love that she said she goes, "I have this piece that I know needs to let go, but I'm afraid to let it go because the little inner child doesn't want to let it go."
Yeah.
And to be very honest, I don't even remember what it was because that piece of self-awareness when she said, "I could feel it. It's just I want to she wants to protect it, right?"
Yeah.
And people are always shocked when we say we can go back to in utero and even beyond. You know, there's a contract. We could get into that another time. But there's this cellular piece. I have one of my clients, her mom had cancer. It was discovered when she was pregnant with her. And she got cancer at 7, blood cancer,
Mhm.
leukemia. And
Mm.
she's now in her late 40s. So we've done a lot of work together, but this piece about mom had cancer and some way into cellularly, there's a resonance field. I don't know if that, you know, we can't really prove it, but it's so interesting, right? The
Yeah.
interconnectedness of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
So,
epigenetics, I mean, epigenetics and I
yes,
mean, all the study of all these things scientifically are proving that, you know,
right.
we can generate generationally, you know, experience cellular memory, conscious or
Right.
unconscious, of what our ancestors did, so it's like, again, I say we don't want to go down the rabbit hole, yet the rabbit hole does coexist.
It
It
does.
coexists all together, though,
Right.
all together as a unit. We don't have to separate it and go off into this journey into figuring that out, or in a blaming, or it must be this or that. That's all the ego wanting to figure it out. But again, the wisdom that is within us, through different sources to tap into that, um, is a gift, is a gift.
Yes.
It's the medicine. We have the medicine. And I'm still learning about my specific medicine. I mean, here I am, just roughly a month away from a 10 year. And it was like,
Yay.
what they've told, what I've been told is, this type of cancer, as aggressive as it is in nature, they typically do like 5 years for women, but with this type of cancer, it's 10. So I'm like, okay, I'm at the finish line, I'm going to be okay. And then just earlier this, well, actually it was January of 23, when I'm doing my routine labs, I'm doing all my things. I still have to monitor. I'm not just like, oh, okay, well, spirit's handling that, and my inner
Right.
physician
I'm
told me
done.
this,
Right.
and I can just go over here and like make a ham sandwich and forget about that. That's not it at all. But in January of last year, things started kind of shifting a little bit. With my numbers were fluctuating as they have, and I make some corrections. I'm like, okay, drop in what do
Right.
I need to do here? But I also experienced a traumatic loss of my mother,
Yeah. That's a big
this year
one.
too, and I'm literally like watching it in real time. Like, you can't negotiate blood work, you can't negotiate, you know,
Right.
data from testing, and I'm watching how my body, my internal body, is responding to these stressors and these traumas, and I'm doing the work with that yet again, so it I don't know, anything more that I could say is like, it's just there. We can never stop, like, looking within, and listening to the wisdom that's there for ourselves, no matter what, no matter
Didn't
what
Dr.
hits
Yeah.
us.
Didn't Dr. John say that? He said, if you have nothing else to look for, you have how many seconds to live or minutes to live? He said,
Oh, yeah,
when you
yeah,
stop
yeah.
processing,
When you
he
s
goes, you're
Yes,
just pretty much
you're at
done.
the end of your road. Right,
Right.
right.
So
Yeah.
it's true. So, the death of your mom, and it was sudden. It wasn't
Mhm,
expected. And, that's a whole other piece there, that grief piece. And this is part of the reason with my book is like I looked at some of these people and they've had these grief pieces that they were holding on to, but they weren't. There is no right way to grieve, but
mhm,
what do you do with it,
mhm,
right?
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
It's an interesting thing. It's coming up on my mom's anniversary of 8 years losing her, and I've been feeling funky as well because you're like, huh, and it's 8 years, so it never really leaves completely. But in your case, she was young and it was very sudden, and you
Mhm.
didn't really weren't expecting it. And you've made a lot of changes to your life. You moved away from your hometown to create a different life. You have a lot of fluctuation going on in your life. So it's an environment that creates stress, and that's why you keep doing your work, right? So we're not saying it's a recipe for this, but that's why we're talking about the due diligence. I always tell people you should see the team of practitioners I have that I see on a regular basis, because I couldn't do the work for my people if I don't do the work for myself. A-
Absolutely,
And that's really
absolutely.
where we sit, right?
Yeah,
It's an ongoing process.
yeah.
And it's okay to be afraid.
Mhm. Yeah. And feeling the fear of it. I mean, this time around has just been so different for me. When I look back, I'm like, I think I was, I was just so hyper focused on so many different things that I didn't even allow some processes to for myself to even experience the process of fear and grief for
Right.
myself, wanting to protect other people from, the worry, and that I really robbed myself of that experience. So I'm yet again here. I am in the spiral. I'm coming back around this again, and I'm looking at, okay, well, how here's this experience. Here's a lot of grief. And everything is like muttered together. Why I say it's never separate.
No.
So how do I hold that space with myself to, still grieving the loss, still grieving chronic illness, and know it, it's just
Right.
a lot of uncertainty and unknown, is like, you got to feel it to heal it. That is my mantra
Right.
always, and
Yeah.
that's not easy. That's not easy. I'm not saying like, "Oh, I wanna jump into that river," you know what?
No,
Because it
nobody wants to
feels
jump
like
into
that
that river.
sometimes. Nobody really wants to, but there is an easier way that it can be done. And again, the practices that you and I both embody from a therapeutic standpoint,
Right.
are authentic and organic to the moment in the experience.
Right.
And we have the resilience to do whatever it is that we're in that moment to do, and
Yeah.
it builds, and we continue to build more resilience from there.
I mean, so Chrissy is getting to know me better. She saw that I was flipping out before this because my anxiety about being seen. This is what I'm working through right now. If you're going to complete a book and try to do things that are online, you have to get over your fear of uh, judgment and also abandonment. But anyway, why am I saying that? Because we're always going to have something that we're carrying with us as
Yeah.
we're moving forward in life. And so if we can embrace that we know that it's there, but tell the little part of you like it's okay, I got you. We're just going to do
Mhm.
this anyway. We're going to do it
Mhm.
anyway because we have to.
Yeah, this is part of our soul's contract, and I believe that, again, it mirrors what I say about, I can't predict the future. I don't know what the outcome is. I just know that when I'm in my body, and I'm allowing things to just be in flow, I, I it hasn't failed me. It hasn't failed me
Right.
yet.
Right.
And I need the help of a team, of people. I mean, you've been a part of that
Hmm.
journey since I met you last year. The incredible work that was done,
Oh
in
yeah.
this ecosystem environment. I mean, it was like, blew me open in a way of like, okay, I've been and in this alternative healing world, doing all this inner work for 20 years. How did that still,
It really.
it's so humbling. But it's changed the way that also changed the way that I look at the world, changed the
Hmm.
how I work through my hands, are is different. So yeah, we
I
just get.
agree. Now this could be left for another time, but I am adopted, and you've had your own abandonment stuff. We could talk about that another
Mhm,
time.
mhm,
But for
mhm.
me, that ocean experience was a rebirth. It was that
Yeah.
piece that I couldn't get being on a table. The part of being in the ocean and going to the ocean floor and feeling like, okay, welcome home. Here you are.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just like because we're 70% water, so this cellular consciousness and connecting to the ocean and its wisdom. We're just
I mean,
blended. It
and
was just
just the
amazing.
the fact that I had a near-death experience in the ocean, and
Yeah.
had never my entire life been able to even stand at the ocean without having this major, like, visceral response to, like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, it's going to take me." I've done a lot of obviously enough processing that I spent 5 days in the ocean with absolutely no fear, and was
You did
able to
amazing.
go to the depths that I was able to go to, is just as a miracle. It is a miracle, for me, and I'm so grateful. Still to this day, it's like, wow, how do you top something like that? But you
I agree.
do, but you
Yeah,
do,
well,
because
it just
there'll be
builds.
another experience, and in just different ways. Maybe even just the discovery, and working through, these uncomfortable things
Right.
like getting on a Zoom and talking about, and
Yep.
being seen and really facing all that. This is yet another big a big healing that's taken place
Ye
for you and I both
Right.
here.
Well, while we're doing
So
this, we don't even know how it will be received, but it's the letting go and trusting spirit, trusting our
yeah,
innate wisdom, and hopefully the people that are meant to see this and get glimmers some kind of something from it, from our
yeah,
experiences, some hope, some different tools, maybe. I think that
for
would be
sure.
great. So I think we're planning to do a couple more. Because I'm watching the time and I want to make sure that we just stick to about a half an hour. Um, I want to thank Krissy for doing the Zoom part. I'm so technologically a challenge, and and thank anybody that is listening. Again, my name is Kimberly Ann Egberts, spiritual healer medium, and
I
there
go.
is
I'm Krissy Marie, CST. Yeah, Krissy Marie that's me in the world and as a healing conduit. So I too, in person and virtual sessions that integrate cranial sacral mind body therapies,
no,
emotional release, somatic EMDR, those type of things that all kind of blend and mirror my existence.